Okay, here's your trig rules. So if you ever have the sine of x, the derivative is the cos of x. And if you have a cos function, the derivative is negative sine x. So what if instead of just x, you had like a bunch of stuff, a unit of stuff, then your derivative would be, well, the cos of u and attach the derivative of the unit. Remember, we've kind of done that with power law. So then what would the last thing be? Negative sine of the unit, attach the derivative of the unit. Do you remember what sine and cos curves look like? Like a wave. Where does sine start? Do you remember where we always started it? Midline. So at 90 degrees, we're at 1, right? At 180, we're at 0, right? And then what was the difference with the cos? Starts at the top. Okay, so do the derivatives make sense? Okay, ready? So what do you think at 0 on this graph if I drew like a tangent line? Okay, so think about that tangent line right there. So at 0, so the derivative would be, well, what's the cos of 0? 1. Does this look like it would have a slope of 1? Yeah. Okay, what about at 90 degrees here? What's the slope of this tangent line that I drew? 0. We'll go to the cos of 90 degrees. What's the cos value at 90 degrees? 0. Okay, now look at pi. Look at the tangent line there. What's the slope of that line? So what's the cos of pi? -1. Would the slope of that be -1? Yeah, see how that's working? So does it work the same for this? So for instance, at 0, my slope should be 0. So what's negative sine of 0? Sine of 0 is 0. So yeah, the slope is 0. At the 90 degrees, the tangent line. So go to 90 degrees up there. What's the sine of 90? 1 times -1. Boom, my slope is -1. Okay, so that's how that's all working. Okay, so here we go. Y prime equals. So what's the derivative with sine? Cos times, attach the derivative of that, of just this part, 2x. Number 2, if you have a cos function, the derivative would be a negative sine of the function times the attached unit, 3x squared. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to show you a product law out of this, but then we will kind of just make a rule about it. Okay, so if I do a product law using that and that, what's the derivative of 8? Nothing. Times sine 9x. Right? Plus, and then you would do what? You would keep the 8, derive this. So what's the derivative of a sine function? Cos of that function. Attach the derivative of 9x, which is just 9. So this would be 72 cos 9x. Okay, so on this one, I guess you can really think of it as a product again, so we don't have to worry about that first product. Okay, we don't have to worry about the first product because it'll be 0 times whatever. So then the second part would be to keep the 10, derive a cos function. So what's the derivative of a cos function? Negative sine of the function. Attach the derivative of this part, 6x. Okay, you would probably see me simplify this. So can you put this, this, and this together in the front? So negative 60x Okay, so this one, we are going to have to do the power chain rule. Remember the power chain rule? Okay, so you're going to go 5 of those units to the 4th, because you got a power, so you got to do the power rule first. 5 of those units to the 4th times the derivative of the unit. So what's the derivative of a sine? Cos of the function times the derivative of just that. So do you see I had to attach and attach? I had 2 attachments on that one. Okay, so be careful when you're looking at this. Do remember what this means. When you have sine 4th like that, it'd be me doing sine x cubed to the 4th, right? I personally, on these, write it like that. Okay, so if we derive it, you would go front times top. So 4 of those units cubed, 1 down. 4 of the units, 1 lower. Attach the derivative of that unit. So deriving a sine would be a cos of that unit. Attach a 3x squared because you have to derive that unit. So derive that unit, but then when you derived it, you had to attach the derivative of the unit again. That's not too confusing, how many times I had to say that? Okay, do we understand the difference between do you understand those are different things? Right? Those are different. This is really a sine x squared, like that, right? And this is the sine of just an x squared. And this is the sine of x squared. Okay, so just be careful with your format because you'll treat those differently, right? You would do a power law here, and here you would just start with cos.